Hey guys, and welcome back to the ASX Investor channel, and welcome to another CEO interview. Today we'll be diving into the tin sector and unpacking the story of Elementos. ASX ELT is developing a couple of really fascinating tin projects. We know about the sector, the prices have been soaring to record highs, but along with that as well, it's going to be a significant and critical metal as we transition into this next phase of decarbonisation and transition into new technologies around the world. We're really grateful to be joined by the CEO of Elementos, Joe David. It's a fascinating story. There's been a lot of news over the past few weeks, which we'll be unpacking. Welcome to the channel, Joe.
Yeah, thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you today.
It is great to have you join us. Before we unpack all the recent news, if you can give us that overview, there's two key projects that Elementos is working on, what you're offering, and what's that problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So we're a tin development company. It's worth pointing out we do have two projects. Our major flagship project is one we acquired 2 years ago in the south of Spain. It's in the region of Andalusia, which is the major mineral production province of Spain. That's our major project. We're going full bore at that. We've finished big drill programs. We've just finished an updated scoping study. We're going into a definitive feasibility study. The tin market is absolutely robust and probably looks like it's only going into a larger deficit moving forward. So for us, moving that project through approvals into construction and operations is an absolute focus for the company. Second to that, we have our more historic project that got Elementos into being a tin development company in the first place. It's located in the northwest of Tasmania, just outside the town of Waratah. And that is a project that also has some great fundamentals. It's probably a couple of years back in the development timeframe than Oropesa is. And certainly right now, we're trying to look for a little bit of extra mineralization outside of the known area. Currently have the drill rig spinning right now down on site. So progress on both fronts, but certainly major focus is our Oropesa project in Spain.
Plenty going on, and we'll definitely unpack the Oropesa progress, but we'd be interested to hear, maybe for those who are not as familiar with the tin sector, can you give us that overview about the tin sector at the current stage, and what are some of those primary use cases, particularly as we see this transition moving forward as well?
Yeah, hey, absolutely. So tin has a bit of a bad reputation. It's got a reputation for tin foil hats. It's got a reputation for tin cans. It's got a reputation for maybe the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. So it certainly is going through a bit of a re-education process at the moment. The main use of tin and the main use for moving forward is for electrical solders. So for those that are not familiar, when you're moving electricity over a long distance, like cables, copper does a really good job of moving it. But when you're actually coming down to semiconductors, printed circuit boards, anywhere where you've got the logic decisions being made by electricity, that's where tin comes into its own. So it is the solder. The solder is best described as the electrical glue that holds together all the other components. Got a really low melting point compared to the other elements, so it can actually be used to effectively draw the route that the electrons move through circuits. So solder traditionally was a lead tin blend, but as all things with lead, it's being removed all over society, like fuel and paints and everything else. So we've now moved to about a 95% tin, 5% silver blend. Any of the elements that can replace tin in solder are more expensive, so gold, silver, or any of those. So tin's very robust, and as I said before, it is the electrical glue that holds the whole circuit together. That is currently about 55% of demand of tin in the industry, but all the growth that's moving forward, which is quite significant, is all pretty much associated with solder. The other uses of tin are the more traditional ones that you'd be familiar with. The tin can still uses a fair bit of tin for its anti-bacterial type properties. It does go into some tin chemicals, still plays a role in lead acid batteries, but certainly the future for tin and the major uses moving forward are that electrical solder and that glue that holds it all together.
Really appreciate that overview. And of course, it's not only isolated to tin, but we're seeing so many commodities at the moment reaching really fascinating supply and demand stage of the cycle. Tin is another one that's forecast to have a supply deficit that's potentially going to continue to increase moving forward. We'd love to just hear some of those thoughts about your thoughts on the current state of the tin market and then that outlook moving forward. Where do you think things currently stand?
Yeah, hey, so a couple of years ago, Rio Tinto and MIT University put out a a bit of a study that effectively said, as we move away from the combustion engine, as we move to green infrastructure and green technologies and more battery technologies, tin was actually going to be the most impacted or the most sensitive to that change. Not because it necessarily gets used in the most quantities, but because it's also such a small market. So compared to copper or lithium or cobalt, we're a tiny market. We're 360,000 tonnes of tin per year, which is absolutely minuscule compared to the others. And the demand for it is, as I said, absolutely accelerating. So right now, we get a lot of our data from a group called the International Tin Association. They historically, tin's had a growth rate of demand growth rate of about 1.8% per annum. They've upped their forecast recently to 3 to 4%. And certainly, if you believe in the high technology, if you believe that we're moving, very quickly to a green tomorrow, which we certainly do, you move that growth rate to about 5 to 6% growth, which is just huge. And that leads to about 2025, about a 50 to 70,000 tonne deficit that the market needs to fill. Which is absolutely substantial, and the market's trying very hard to fill it, but there's just not enough tin projects to fill that anyone can forecast right now.
And all of that flows in fairly nicely then to where Elementos is currently positioned, the flagship Oropesa project at the moment in Spain. You acquired that a couple of years ago. Interestingly, we got the optimization study numbers over the past couple of weeks. Did you want to give us the overview of how the project's positioned and what some of those key numbers were surrounding it all?
Yeah, absolutely. So we acquired that, as you said, back in 2019, closed the transaction, started 2020, and went straight into a ASX level scoping study. We also reported that on the Canadian exchange at that point, so updated economic assessment. And we did that with the data available to us. But since that point, we did a very large drill program. That drill program did two things. It not only did it increase the tonnes in the ground by 50%, but it actually increased the geological confidence of those tonnes, with now 88% of those tonnes sitting in the higher categories of measured and indicated, which is critical for us because we're going into definitive feasibility study, and the goal is to declare JORC or reserves. So getting that geological confidence up was clear. But as we got to the end of that, declared that to the market end of November last year, we quickly realized that we had an opportunity to rescale the project in terms of the size. No one wants a mine life of 25 or 30 years. Certainly for our investors, we like to bring those cash flows forward as much as we can. So we certainly decided to increase the scale of the project. We increased the scale, according to the optimization study we put out just last couple of weeks ago compared to 2020, by 66%. So we went from a 750,000 tonne mining rate up to a 1.25 million tonne mining rate. We do use the TOMRA or the ore sorting technology, which is very well established in tin. So that means our process plant's getting on average about 1 million tonnes per year in the front of it. And we're producing just over 3,000 tonnes of tin metal each year. And we do that in 3,350 tonnes of tin metal per year on average. And that's in a tin concentrate, which is about 5,400 tonnes of tin concentrate. Now, not many people know a lot about tin, so those numbers probably don't mean a lot to them, but they're very significant numbers. That would make us a producer of about 1% of global tin, and certainly a very significant number of listed companies you can get access to that tin. So the other quirk of the tin market is most of it is produced by either state-owned entities or unlisted companies, of which you struggle to get access to. There's only 8 to 10 real companies on the ASX, the global markets, that you can get access to tin. So for us to be able to produce 1%, is certainly a significant number. Not many companies that would be reporting 1% of global copper or nickel or other commodities. So of that 1.25 million tonne scale up project we produced some economics off the back of that. The current tin price on the London Metals Exchange as of today is about $43,000 a tonne, and the current tin price in Shanghai and on the Shanghai Futures Exchange is about $53,000 a tonne. Now, we used quite a conservative number as the base of our study because we want to prove that our project will be robust through a lot of prices in the tin commodity cycle. So we used a base case tin price of $32,500 per tonne for our optimization study we put out. Using an 8% discount rate, that gives us a pre-tax NPV of $292 million. Certainly what gets myself and a number of our shareholders excited is following on from the tin market fundamentals, which show massive undersupply, and certainly a lot of belief out there that the tin price should stay strong, potentially even go up, is the fact that when you start running those high tin prices, which are still current spot prices in the market, you're starting to get NPVs for our project around $500 million up to closer to $1 billion. So certainly what excites us as a company, and we look forward to moving this project forward through the DFS.
Plenty going on. And then, as you said, that's all going to flow through to the upcoming DFS. I saw that you completed some of those major submissions as well, mining license side, environmental, regulatory. Keen to hear your thoughts on everything else that's been playing out. And then what are those key growth drivers that investors should look for over the next 12 to 18 months as those submissions are finalized?
Yeah, hey, so we that was really, really significant for us. So when we took over the project in 2020, a major focus of ours was to get those environmental impact assessment, rehabilitation plan, and the mining license application in. Now, due to the re-drilling and then doing this optimization study, we got them in a little bit later than we probably initially would have wanted, but the significance does not change. And I guess I just want to highlight they're fully aligned with the optimization study we just put out. So it's the larger operation. We've minimized disturbance where possible. We're very strong on ESG and being a good corporate citizen. So we have, in that plan and in the numbers I just mentioned to you, we have fully rehabilitated the site. There's $106 million in there for the rehabilitation of site, which is the full backfill of the pit, as well as all the other dismantling of infrastructure and all the other things. We've also fully minimized any disturbance of any known sensitive areas on site, so like locating our key infrastructure, a tailings dam, a process plant location, all those things are fully aligned with the regulatory submissions we just put in. So whilst it's called an optimization study, it certainly is well down the path of the mine plan that we'll be putting, that'll make up the definitive feasibility study for us. So yeah, really huge significant steps for us there, and something we're really proud of as a company.
Plenty going on. It'll be very interesting to watch a pathway towards that final investment decision. I guess on the other side as well, the Cleveland Tin Project in Tasmania. Can you give us an update on how that's going? I think you've got some drills in the ground at the moment, actually, which is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always nice to have the drill rig spinning. It certainly puts a bit of excitement through the whole company. So we're doing a 5-hole program there, and we've got all the details up on the ASX. 4 of those holes are along strike of our existing resource. There is a nice looking existing resource there at Cleveland. Not only is there a good tin grade of about 0.75%, which is a little bit higher than Oropesa, but it is also an underground mine, so you tend to want a slightly higher grade in the ground to pay for it. It's got some really nice copper credits there, about 0.3%. And additionally, at depth, there is a pretty interesting looking tungsten deposit, which is just being tagged from historic drilling, and certainly something we're very interested to learn more about, obviously with tungsten being around the world on every single critical minerals list possible. So certainly that's very exciting to us. So we're currently on our 3rd hole. No assays or further data available to the market. We're yet to receive them, probably about 5 weeks away to get our first results back there. But certainly onto our 3rd hole, we like what we're seeing, but certainly look forward to giving the market more information when we've got it and can disclose.
That is a transformative start to 2022, to say the least, on both fronts. Be keen to hear any final reflections that you had for shareholders, those who have followed the journey, or those who might be just looking at this story now. Anything that you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah, hey, one of the key things for us is in Spain, the Andalusian government in early March put us into their project accelerator group. So that group is quite critical, extremely critical, and we were very happy to be put in with such an established group. So they only brought in 7 projects into that group. It's effectively the equivalent of a state significant project in an Australian equivalent. They call it their project accelerator group, and it pulled in 7 projects. It was us, private iron ore mine, the Matsa project that Samphire Resources recently bought in, which is also in the region. It's about 80 kilometers away from our project. And then the Rio Tinto copper mine owned by Athlaya Mine. They got 4 or 5 projects in there. All those projects are billion-dollar projects. We're a $150 million market cap company. So to be brought in with that group really shows not only we're in with the right guys, we're looked as a legitimate company that the government wants to support, bringing economic growth to the local towns, as well as the region as a whole. So we're really excited to be part of that group. And it really, for our shareholders and for others that haven't just learning about the story, it really shows a strong commitment of from the government, and certainly the strength of the relationship that we form with the government. Great timing. We got put into that group a month before we submitted our regulatory documents. So again, a lot of great alignment. And the goal of that group is to bring forward and to support your development as much as possible. So potentially shorten some of your regulatory approval timeframes. They also provide us with government provided support, i.e. they actually provide us with some engineers to help develop our project and centralize communications with ourselves and key government departments. So, you couldn't ask for more supportive government in Andalusia right now.
That is the Elementos story. It's ASX ELT. If you've enjoyed the interview, don't forget to hit the like button. Feel free to share it out. Make a daily video each and every day, so make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on. Joe David, it was a pleasure catching up with you. Exciting times both for the sector and for Elementos. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.